Good evening, and welcome to tonight's book study, Rise of the False Gods, Transformation Through Illumination. And I'm really coming from a different place tonight. No makeup. I'm going with the hair as is. Uh, it's been a really tough day. If you have not joined our book study before, Rise of the False Gods is all about transformation through illumination, through enlightenment, wisdom, and understanding how spiritual principle works. If this is your first time and you would like to be sure to see it all, you can go to YouTube and type in Rise of the False Gods. Reverend Wanda Rise of the False Gods, Alicia Leslie. I didn't put the Reverend in there because I didn't want people to think it was all about religion. Religion's in it, but it's mostly metaphysics and spirituality. It's politics, it's money, it's sex, it's you name it, it's in there. I was compelled to write this book 5 years ago, and I started. And the reason I was so compelled to write it is because I could see the ignorance, lack of understanding about what spiritual principle is all about. See, we kind of try to very often shove spirituality into a little box called religion. And then we judge that religion according to whether or not we like how it impacts our life. And that is an error because religion is the framework through which we express our spirituality. And now there are many religions, and I think that's because people are at different places in their spiritual growth, and each one has to find the way they're growing. Spiritual growth is not linear. That's one thing we have to understand. Nor is it timed. We awaken and we move forward. Our big problem today is that people are not awakening. They are in the dark. Over 20 years ago, Barbara Marx Hubbard wrote a book called The Revelation Our Crisis is a Birth. She said we're in a birthing process. It will either be a smooth and easy Lamaze type birth, or it will be a very painful and dangerous breech type birth. And breech, as you know, means the baby's coming out backward. It's very painful and it's very dangerous. And it appears that after she wrote the book in like 1992, 2002, 2012, almost 30 years ago. And it's very clear we have not chosen the Lamaze method. We can. We can choose that by right of consciousness. It means not engaging in what is happening around us as much as observing it, learning from it, and acting accordingly. And we can do this. It's scary. I'm going to be honest. The reason there's no makeup or anything tonight is because I had a real hard time prying myself away from the horrors that I saw on the news in our own country, the insanity that is happening. And that is the lowest level of human consciousness. Don't think about how it got this bad. I will tell you how it got this bad. It got this bad because it started small and people were shooting out warning messages and people weren't taking it, and they were responding first to what they wanted for themselves, not what was necessarily doing the right thing. Okay? We like to say we're doing the best thing. Well, the best thing is not the right thing. See, the best thing kind of makes you happy. The right thing doesn't always make you happy, but it brings good, happy results. So the lower is the very selfish. And what we are seeing right now is the outpicturing of the magnification of everything that has happened. When I wrote this book, I sensed we were moving in this direction. But I thought, if people only knew, if people only knew. And what I've learned since writing the book, and some people liking it, some people hating it, not a bestseller. Then again, I didn't do anything to promote it except for share the teaching with people I talk to, because sometimes that's the way we learn. We learn when we have a receptive person that wants to consider a different possibility. Because where we are now, we got here through a spiritual principle called the law of cause and effect. Causes have gone forth, and there have been responses or reactions to those causes. The lower we are in human awareness, in our lower consciousness, we're not really sensitive to this, because the higher state is intuitive sensing. You know, when you're born, when babies are born, they have that down. Your baby knows when it is near a person that is truly good and sound, and a person that has a bad negative vibration. They know these things. As we grow, we start to have a process where see, babies understand the oneness, that we're all one, that it all works together, and they're joyful at life, and it's wonderful. But then, as we become more and more immersed in our humanness, our human consciousness, we turn to being self-centered. As we become self-centered, we lose, or shall I say, shove to the back of our minds, the consciousness of oneness and working together. Now, I'm going to start. Yes, Cheryl says young children and animals both can feel that. The only difference is animals maintain that because they don't have the strong ego or sense of self. They might have a survival of the fitness power struggle going on, but they don't have ego. It's something that animals generally, unless it's a pack rat, don't hoard things. People hoard things. Animals kill and eat, and for sustenance. People kill for power and for their way. We remember with Cain and Abel, it was all about who was better, who God liked best. God didn't like anybody best. And unfortunately, I can't say that unfortunately, but God doesn't like anyone worse. We're all in this together, and that's our thing, is to learn we're in it together. And that has nothing to do with the topic of this chapter, and I have just blown away some precious minutes of our study. So I'm going to jump into it. This is called Creative versus Formative. We're starting on page 139. It says, while it might surprise you, just about everything around us started out as a divine idea, created by God, then made manifest through us, or should I say, co-created by individual and or collective consciousness. What is around us today? The horrible state of our government, the state, so many people need counselors right now because, or psychological counseling, because people are under enormous stress and duress that can't handle this. And the people that are suffering the most are the enlightened people who understand our oneness. Because when you understand our oneness, you cannot fathom anybody working against that. When you understand our oneness, you will wear a mask if you're going out not to get or spread the coronavirus. You will do what is good for the good of the whole. Clearly, we're not there yet. Even people that we thought would be there, people we respected. Dr. Burks, she retired after an issue arose that she told everybody else not to go anywhere because you want to spread the disease. You don't want to take a chance on getting sick. And what did she do? She went somewhere and she got flack for it. Governor of California telling everybody they're the hot seat right now, the hotbed of COVID. And he's telling everybody, stay home, don't go out, wear your mask, work from home. And he went somewhere to be at a large party. I mean, what the heck is up with that? My dear friends, listen to me because this is really important. There are no loopholes in spiritual law. The law of cause and effect. It may not come right away, but it will come. There's an old song called On Time God. And it said, he may not come when you want him, but he'll be there right on time. Do you know what that right on time minute is? It's when you get it. It's when the light bulb goes off in your consciousness that says, oh, aha. You know, I remember when I found unity, and I don't care what church you go to. Everybody go to the church that feeds you. Just find a church that feeds you and go to it. Because we need support in these very dark and challenging times. We are the light of the world, just like we were told. And we were told not to hide our light under a bucket, but to put it on a lampstand and shine brightly. And that's what I'm calling you to do. Find support for all that is good. And if you think what I'm talking about is just BS and it's not important, I love you, I bless you, and I release you to your highest good. Because I am not going to spend my time debating or focusing on that which is not true with someone who has no ears to hear, no eyes to see. There was plenty of time in my life when my eyes did not see and my eyes did not hear because I didn't want to. I didn't want to know some truths. But yet I wondered why my life could get so messed up. And when I found out, and then for me, it was unity. I found unity. And the first time I walked into a unity church and my soul sang, you're home. Minister hadn't spoken a word. My spirit, my soul knew I was home. And that's what we have to do. We have to connect with that spiritual knowing and home, what says this is right and true within us. And we have to be grounded in that. It's going to get better. It is. But I don't know how long it's going to take. It's going to take as long as it takes for people to wake up. And that's a fact. As long as we're going through what we're going through now, we're at a crisis point. Trump wants to overthrow the election and claim a second term. That is his plan. In the past 2 days, he's let out almost 50 criminals. He pardoned almost 50 criminals directly associated with fair trials. They were associated with him and his original campaign and dealings with the Russians and everything from the Mueller report. They are all free. Nothing is going to change the fact that they are pardoned and they are out. And that's not a good thing. Ultimately, it will be a good thing because when the damage is done and we start to assess how it is negatively affecting our lives and the world, then change will come. But the people have to wake up first. And sometimes, again, I talk about the cosmic 2 by 4, 4 by 8, 8 by 16, 16 by 32, we're running into a brick wall. All we need for it to change is to flippin' wake up. So you're an awakened being. I invite you to remain that way. I invite you to continue to look at and study with me how these things work. What time is it? Oh, my stars. I'm going to go late tonight. I'm just telling you. Sorry about the forays off into God knows where. Okay. I didn't get into like the second line. Let's see. I should say co-created by individual and collective consciousness, like what we're living in today. God created our body. God meaning universal mind, divine mind, first cause. I am not talking about a being. I am talking about being. In the earlier translation of the Bible, it said, "For God is spirit." And then in the King James Version, they changed it. They personalized it to make it for God is a spirit. God is spirit, overarching, transcendent, bigger than us, and immanent within us. And we are all a part of it. And it's all governed by spiritual law. Even quantum physics. See, everything we create through our right of consciousness, through our state of being. And in quantum physics, they say that the subatomic particle, which is the teeniest, weeniest imaginable thing, it responds to the consciousness or the awareness of the observer. So they found these subatomic particles moved in different patterns and everything based on the consciousness of the person that was observing. Remember, we've talked about before when you walk down the street and you'll feel someone's energy when they come toward you. We are energetically out of whack. And it seems to be getting out of whack in a greater way every day. But when that moment comes, there is an inspirational writer called Ashley Brilliant. And one of the very powerful things he said is just when it looks like everything's falling apart, it's really falling together. So things have to fall apart, and it has to get close enough to home so we wake up and learn to do better. Those of us who are awake, and I'm making the assumption, if you're watching this video and you haven't turned it off yet, you are awake. You must continue your journey of awareness. You must continue to learn, to live, and to share the spiritual principles of truth that form our lives and the world we live in. We are in the majority. I'm just going to talk the United States right now here. It was a free and fair election, despite all the stuff that Trump did, from trying to mess up the mail to sowing all the seeds of discontent. Why did we think it would stop? Whatever made anyone think it would stop? He's not capable of stopping. His consciousness is what I call an agent of Antichrist. Is he the Antichrist? Don't forget, these are all states of consciousness. He is the Antichrist because what he does is contrary to what we were taught and what we know about the allness of Christ. The nature of Christ, call it what you will, the divinity within each of us and the ultimate divinity of God. Everything, caring, loving, generous, sharing, all of the things honest, with integrity. All of the things that we see in Christ, we know are in us. We were promised that. Okay? Is it in them? Yes, but they're not there yet. They are in a deep sleep imposed by ego. And I'm going to say it right out. Donald Trump is operating as ego gone wild. He called on all of the white supremacists, the terrorists, the Proud Boys, all those groups, told them to show up in Washington on January 6th and riot in the streets to oppose the reading of the Electoral College, the counting of the Electoral College by Congress. Never has anything like this happened before, ever. Will we make it through it? Yeah, we will, because we're eternal beings. We will because we are here to learn and grow, and it will change according to how we learn and grow, and whether or not we're willing to accept this. And we're so, oh my God. Oh, it's so late. I got to keep going. So I'm going to tell you this. If you have to fast forward to get to the next part, I've got to get into this thing. So just brace yourself. We're going to be late. Okay. I'm so sorry about the side trips, but after I heard what happened today, with him releasing, over the past 2 days, like 50 criminals, convicted criminals. They're not people who served with compassion. They served their what do you call it? They served their sentences. They did their best. And they're sorry. They have regret for their sins. These people have no regret. They have not changed. It is saying it's okay to be a criminal. Do what I want you to do, and I'll get you out. And that's what we've got going on. It is the current state of consciousness of a large portion of America. I believe the awakened ones are, the awakened number is larger, but we have to be not only awakened, we have to be committed. That's the difference between creative and formative. Okay. So we may think about it. Our body was created perfectly for our life experience, and each is unique. As an old poster from the 60s said, God don't make junk. Even if we see our body as flawed, we trust God's plan for our life. We trust God's plan for our life. Remember what I said yesterday? For this we were born. For this we have come. To be in the midst of this and to be agents of positive change in a challenging world. And we're not alone. There are many, many, many of us. And no matter what is happening right now, it came to pass, not to stay. And it will pass as we learn to live in alignment with spiritual principle. Okay. Many people who were born with what the human mind may see as deformities or handicaps have lives deeper and richer than flawless beauties we see on magazine covers. Very often, by the way, what do they call that? Photoshopped or spray painted or whatever they call it, adjusted. Physical beauty is nothing. It's empty of itself. And it's a false God. It's a false sense of good. That's what a false God is. A false sense of good. A belief that materialism will bring us a good life and happiness, having more money, having more stuff, and or having more sensations and experiences of the senses, more power, more ego. Well, that's all in lower consciousness. And it is a lie. We will not find our joy there. And here's what we have to know. We can live and thrive in the midst of whatever is being concocted right now by living lives of integrity and truth. My prayer still is that what will happen in, very shortly, within the next month, is that this is going to be behind us. We are going to be in a new path, that the vast majority of awakened beings that can see the danger and the degradation of our democracy is currently in, they will see it, they will stand against it. Pat Robertson stood against it. He said, get over it. You lost. Move on. He also said, don't run in 2024. The thing is, Trump has already destroyed that. He cannot run in 2024. He either overtakes our democracy now, or nobody's going to want anything to do with him in 4 years. That you can mark my words. Because we didn't learn in the last 4 years. We're going to learn through the next 4 as we continue a very painful breech birth process. Okay. The trick to having a life in the kingdom of heaven on earth is to stay conscious. Be awake every moment. Appreciate every aspect of your life and bless your precious body. One of the things Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, did as a healing treatment for a terminal illness was to bless every cell in her body, even the ones that were ill, the ones that were broken, the ones that were damaged. And that's what we have to do. It's uncommon sense. Common sense is common. It's cheap and common and self-centered. And we don't have any more of that left. Uncommon sense is spiritually grounded. I think that's what bothers me a lot, is that common sense no longer exists in many, many people's minds. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there's 50 criminals out and running around and spreading the message that it's okay to do whatever you want because you can get pardoned. All right. So in 2 years, she was healed. See, it doesn't happen. Can it happen overnight? I believe it. I had a healing happen in a matter of seconds. And it was a long-term something that was wrong with my leg, and it healed. That's another story for another night. Okay, so what does Myrtle's healing have to do with us? It demonstrates that we each have a power beyond what the eyes can see. So can we try? And I apologize because I am still currently under the influence of our current circumstances. It will take me a while to reground, but that's why I'm moving through it with you on the thought that perhaps you may be equally affected by what's going on tonight. And I'm going to tell you something. If you're not aware of what happened today, if you are not aware of what's been happening because you don't watch the news, which is what a relative of mine said recently, and it almost made my head explode. You don't have to live the news. You don't have to immerse yourself in it, but you must be aware. What is happening today is happening because of ignorance, and that can be helped. Ignorance, which is knowing and choosing to do different, cannot be helped. Okay. Every strife, every danger we are facing in our lives and the world today comes from error thoughts or beliefs. The experiences, relationships, and circumstances of our individual and collective lives appear through thought. Thought can be creative or formative. Finally, we're like overtime already, and finally I get to the content. I'll do my best to move through it. Formative thought is what happens when the divine ideas are translated by self or ego. To co-create good, we must keep our mind functioning in the upper quadrants of consciousness, the intuitive sensing, rather than the human thought and human emotion. excuse me, the feelings that belong to the carnal mind. The divine idea may be perfect, but the form it takes is the product of our state of mind. It's a little overwhelming to know that manifestation begins in thought, and whatever we do with that thought. Many studies reveal the average person has 70,000 thoughts each day, 70,000 thoughts. Now, most of them come and go without affecting us. It's practicing our driving to work or whatever. It's fixing our food. It's just, we have thoughts about the food, blah, blah, I'm going to make this, and chopping the food and cooking the food, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't, they're just thoughts that go through our mind. Thoughts go through our mind when we read books or watch television programs, as we make decisions about what are we watching and what it's all about. Sometimes it's like a grocery list. The difference between a thought coming and going or a thought staying, resulting in manifestation, depends on our real or perceived needs, and a connection made between the thinking and the feeling. If we have feeling without thoughts connected to it, or we have thoughts without feelings or emotions connected to it, nothing is going to manifest. It's just another benign thought that runs through our mind during the course of the day. When we make a connection between thinking and feeling, that is where the manifestation begins to occur. What manifestation will look like depends on where in the quadrants of consciousness they are focused. Lower carnal mind or higher spiritual awareness. The things divine mind creates are like the creator, absolute, eternal, unchanging. Things the mind forms in mortal mind are temporal, earthly, limited, transitory. If we don't like what we've manifested, we can examine the thoughts and feelings that created it. Usually saying something like, what the hell was I thinking? And hell is a very appropriate word, because the negative thoughts, feelings, and actions cause suffering. And if you don't think there's enough suffering going on right now, hang on. But you are hanging on knowing you got the safety belt of understanding spiritual principle, living it in your life, and sharing it with others. When we look at the suffering and what can only be called insanity in the world today, and when I wrote this, it was not a fraction of what it is today. We couldn't even fathom 5 years ago where we'd be today, but I knew. How did I know? Because I understand spiritual principle. And I watched these things manifesting around me. And I heard others sound the alert. But it didn't matter, because people were grounded in what they wanted more than the right thing. Oh, it's the best thing. No, it's not. Only the right thing is the right thing. Now, a lot of people in unity will even say, oh, there's no really right and wrong. Ultimately, all works out for good. It works according to how it should. Maybe. But as long as we're experiencing suffering, suffering is wrong. We were not born to suffer. We were born to know how to live in alignment with spiritual principle and grow through it. And yes, grow through the suffering that we are experiencing, that we may grow away from it, think differently and live differently. We have to remember, when it said, and God created, it was God created and said it was good. It was all good. And it was all good. All life as it's meant to be is meant to be good, absolute, eternal, unchanging happiness, security. It is not God that takes these things away. It is ourselves. It is by right of consciousness. It is the way we choose to make our decisions and live our lives. Adam and Eve were expelled because they wanted a shortcut to be as powerful as God. There is no shortcut to be as powerful as God aside from absolutely trusting. Absolutely trusting. But God didn't want puppets that just absolutely trusted. He wanted co-creators. And that's what we're here for. And it's like a playground, and it's great, and we can do wonderful things. We have to stand for goodness and truth and refuse to stand for all that is not good and true. We have to learn to stand against it, not with hate, but with spiritual power, living according to the law. Here on earth, they would have to learn all about good and evil through personal experience. That's what we're here for. We're here to learn about good and evil through personal experience. Our Constitution right now in the United States of America is being tested. The consciousness of good and evil and one nation under God with liberty and justice for all is being challenged. We know where Trump wants to go. Whether he will get that or not depends on the consciousness of the people of the United States of America. The world is watching. We have decisions to make. Whatever the outcome, stay aligned with spirit. It will be all the more important to learn. This isn't going to be an easy ride. I've said that before. The universe is in a constant state of flux. So anything can happen at any time. But if the universe is in a constant state of flux and it manifests according to our awareness, you can see that it is up to us to turn it around by right of consciousness, by where we keep our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. There is no loophole in spiritual law. We must understand the effects and the causes that brought them. The last thing I want to say about creative versus formative, I'd like to use the example of marriage. As a minister and someone who has married many people, I always made sure that my couples went through premarital counseling. I took them through a process that helped them examine their relationship and decide for sure, are you ready? Not all people wanted the counseling. I married them anyway, and that's what, they had the license. I'm not inside their relationship. I don't know what it was. I was doing as they requested. I did have a couple that decided after the counseling that they were not going to get married at that time. They weren't ready, but a year later they did. And I know through my own experience that marriages marriages are created by God, okay? The divine idea of marriage is all good. It comes from God. The manifestation that we make of it comes through our consciousness. I've always said, we do weddings. God does marriages. And if people spent a fraction of the time, money, and energy on their marriage as they spent on their wedding, we would have far fewer divorces. All right. Went way off track tonight. I hope that you can understand that I want to help everyone to understand how the principle is working on it. We want things to be creative, not formative. Whatever is happening now in lower consciousness, any kind of insane thought, that you can send out a message, that you can create a crime, that you can commit crimes and not have any, that's a negative cause. You can send out a negative cause, which is a crime, and not have any effects, which is something's going to come. There will be something coming back. For the people that were released, for the people that are bringing that negative error consciousness out into the world with them, and the people that are impressed by that and say, shoot, this works, I can do this. It's all going to come back, because the law, as it says in the Bible, the Lord, spiritual law, will not be mocked. We can try to mock it. It'll come bite us in the butt. Oh, God, I really try to be more positive, but right this second, it's kind of difficult. So I'm not going to be doing this tomorrow. I'm going to be having my little at-home Christmas Eve, whatever that looks like. I hope to be able to chat with some friends and family, maybe Zoom, maybe Facebook, whatever. So I will not see you again until Monday. And I'm going to ask you to work with me, because together we can change everything. So I'm going to ask you with me to keep lifting our thoughts up. Keep looking at and affirming God is in charge. Great good is coming our way. All is in divine order. And we affirm it, and we pray it, and we trust, knowing good will come. Bless you, my friends. And since I won't be seeing you, do not let anyone rain on your Christmas. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Remember the blessing, the light that has come, that is coming, the Christ that is being rebirthed in us every Christmas. May it be born strong in your being. Whatever faith group you're in, we're all God's kids, even the ones that tap dance on our last nerve. So pray to learn the gift of forgiveness and the power of living truth. Happy holidays, and looking forward to a better tomorrow with you, because together we can make it happen.